All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Thursday Night Football Showdown show here on the Mayo Media Network. Do us a favor on the way in. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps us all out. Got my guys with me, as always. Hoopster, Title, going to break down all things for Bengals at the Ravens, the second of an AFC North division battle. So we'll talk about that. I love this slate, so I'll give you the details right off the top. I'll break it down more. Everyone knows from over at SHIPIT Nation in the Discord this morning, I've been up early. It's week 10. We got to get to work now. We're into the double digits. I've been close, but not been able to close. That's the English language for you. The same word looks the same on paper. Certainly not the same thing in the bank account. So nobody cares. Work harder. We move on. Hoopster, I'll bring you in. Fun game tonight. I'm excited for this one. What's going on, man?
Yeah, it should be a good one. I mean, a lot of times these, one-off Thursday night football games are not all that appealing. They make sure everyone gets a Thursday night game. So we've had a lot of, not super appealing from entertainment standpoint. This is good from an entertainment standpoint and a DFS standpoint. I mean, a lot of potential plays here. A lot of guys that could, go off and be the guy that you need in captain. I think there's like 6 guys that you look at their names and it's very difficult to not want to play them in captain, and they're probably getting most of the ownership. But on the other hand, it could be one of those slates where you get like 5 guys that are between like 18 and 22 and you need them. And then a cheap captain is necessary as well. So I think that's in play today as well. Again, my process is, pretty straightforward. Like I do the show with you guys, I'll look in the morning, I do the show with you guys, and then I go and start really digging in, doing my content and building my team. So again, we talk about it all the time, but I love this because a lot of times what I come in thinking changes just having these conversations with you guys, interacting with the chat, getting some good questions from the chat, and a lot of, good nuggets as the show goes on. So definitely very excited to talk this one with you guys. So let's get it going here.
Yeah, Title, I'll bring you in just a sec. Some good folks here in the chat. You talked about our hoops, some good comments, some things that you pick up. Shout out to all these people. I'm popping up on the screen. And then Justin Teeter, we appreciate you, says, just discovered this week and have been beyond impressed at how much better it is than other DFS sites. Justin, let us know. Just give us some feedback. Maybe it'll be worth your while to let us know sort of what you like that's different from some of the other sites that you watch. I'm always curious to know, get the feedback. Title, bring you in, man. I don't know if you think the same as me, but I really like this slate tonight. I'm excited for this one.
Oh, I'm with you for sure. I mean, a lot of injuries like that are kind of important. Both tight ends, Likely and Eric All, both out. So a lot of cheap pieces that are viable. Guys like Khalil Herbert, Deontay Johnson, a lot of roles that are unknown. And then, I mean, it's the biggest total on the slate, which is awesome to start it off. Rarely do we get that on Thursday. Division game, 2 great teams. Like, who thinks his Lions have looked the best so far? It's hard to argue that, but I think your Ravens, man. I know the Chiefs are undefeated, but man, Lamar looks good, and they just keep getting better, being able to run it down the throat. So I get it. The Ravens are good, but like again, the same thing I say. The end result, and Tambo backs it up too.
Different.
Derrick Henry brings a different element.
It don't matter. It don't matter. Lamar Jackson,
skinny Lamar too. Lamar.
Lamar Jackson's their quarterback. You know what the end result is.
All right. You should have took my 100 last time with Miller and Rakeem. How about who gets farther? Ravens or Lions? A little bet.
Oh wow.
Yes, I'll take that one. Yeah, let's put some money behind that one. What you want to do? Just a friendly wager or something real? You want to do something real?
Yeah, we can do 5.
All right, who gets further? We'll do 5 then. 500.
All right, we'll do 500.
All right, there we go. That's actually a good one. That's why I perked up for that one. I know Hoopster would like that. He's definitely going to defend it as if his guys got to the Super Bowl last year or something when they didn't get there either.
One try. Ravens, we're seeing a history of the same result.
We'll see. But I think it's a fun one here. We're going to break it all down. Shout out to Oracle, says, got the new blue SHIPIT hoodie. No one got it on today. We got it all. I know, Title, I think yours is going in the mail here soon. We got lots of stuff with the new merchandise over on the site. Appreciate everybody for supporting. Could just bet another shoey that Hoop won't ever do. Oh, they're all over Hoopster in the chat. That's the best part to kick it off. But
well, hey, the shoey thing, yeah, I have not accomplished it yet. But one thing I will say, if you bet with me, I pay very quickly. Anyone can attest to that. I'm not someone when money's on the line that's handled very quickly.
He just doesn't want to drink a beer. It's bad for his tummy.
I drink a lot of beers, but not out of shoes.
So I always kick it to you guys first for the grand scheme overview. I'm going to start with mine because obviously I told you I'm very excited for this one. And Title, you hinted at it a little bit. Obviously, we have some injuries that make it better for that perspective, but like Michael Pepe is popping in the chat with it. The other thing is we got a lot of captain options, and that's what I like. It's actually not about, like, people always think it's the diamond in the roughs on the slate, and I get to play all these different punt plays and the polar bear and all this other stuff they're going to do. And I get it. Those guys, will talk about them. They'll be in play. But the biggest thing is more when there's a captain separation like this. Lamar, there's so much value that Lamar is definitely going to be played, but some people still want Chase. Some people still want King Henry scoring multiple touchdowns. I think he's minus 300 to score 1 tonight. Big fave even to score 2. So there's that. You got a little bit of tight end ownership soaking up captains with Mark Andrews with no likely, Gesicki with no all, even though Hudson and Sample and guys like that were still getting into the mix last game, but it's just getting thrown around. Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, all those guys. That makes for a better slate in my eyes. The other couple of things for me, and then Title, I'm going to go to you for your grand scheme overview. But the other two things for me are second of a division game. I know it's 50-50. I get it. And I know the sample size means nothing. It's something that we do have a long history on because everybody plays everybody twice for many seasons now. But there's the setup of, like, this is a huge total, big boy total, 2 defenses that aren't super strong. But you never know, man. Like I say, sometimes these defenses just show up at home in these spots because of that. It's such a battle between, and how important this game means for a team like the Ravens who can't figure it out against the Browns when needed. Things like that. Those games are costly later on. So, I mean, that's good for building in sets. Title, I'll kick it to you. Other stuff maybe I'll come up with, but I love this slate. What do you think, man? What's your first thoughts?
Yeah, no, everything you said. And I think the captain call is probably the most important. If we're looking at the stone right now, the highest owned captain we have is 20% Lamar. Chase Brown's 10, Chase 11, Zay 9, Henry 13. Like, that's really, really spread out and things you love to see. And what I know is I'm going to jam a good amount of Lamar at captain, like 20%. And again, I just said the Ravens I thought looked the best so far in the NFL, 6-point favorites. I'm going to be going more Ravens heavy stuff, but I don't even mind stuff like what's awesome is both sides. You can go 1-5s with the 1 being captain or 2-4s with the 2 being captain, because you have clear guys like a Chase Brown, as we saw last week, a Jamar Chase, a Derrick Henry, a Zay Flowers, guys that can completely nuke it, but carry their team pretty much the whole way, where then they do almost everything. And then you get more on the other side, but usually the 2-4s captains up top are more contrarian. So also love Lamar slates. You don't need to pair him with anything. You can also pair him with 3 pass catchers. So playing him at captain, we talked about it a lot with Josh Allen. So many ways to do it. So you always say it, and I like it. You trust yourself. Even if I play 20%, he was 20%. I trust myself to build better lineups, less duped. Other people will have lineups that are duped 300 times. That's a bad lineup in my opinion. I'll build better ones, but I still think I'm going to get overweight Lamar. But yeah, everything you said, and fact of Lamar's legs and the combination of you can do a lot of things with him at captain is something I'm going to be leaning into. Yeah,
and then the other thing too is just what the second part you said there is, like, even if he does get steamed up, I always feel fine with that. Like, I'm actually, if I'm underweight on him, but I know how I build, I can sometimes feel better about that too. Hoop, what's your first thoughts, just sort of grand scheme overview before we get into these captains, because there's a bunch of them to talk about, but how are you thinking about this slate just going in? What's your first thoughts?
Yeah, so much is in play, like you guys talked about, and I think that's what makes it fun and dynamic. Like, there's so many different things you can do. You talked about, like, naked Lamar. I actually kind of prefer pairing him, but we'll talk about that when we get to the quarterback stuff. You can do that, but all these high-end guys are clearly in play at captain. It can be tough to if you are someone that likes to fade and make stands, it's going to be hard to get away from these 6 main guys in the captain spot. So that's definitely one talking point. But like I said in the opening, like, this is a slate where you could see 5 guys get to that 18 to 25 fantasy point performance where you need them. And then, like, a cheaper captain comes into play, maybe like, I don't know, Andrews or Bateman or Yoshi. I mean, we'll talk about all these guys as we go on. So I am probably more interested in cheap captains today than I typically am for that reason. Because if you do which I'm going to obviously have a lot of Lamar up there and Jamar Chase, but you are sacrificing a lot of shares of the other guys that aren't in those lineups. I mean, so introducing some cheaper captains, I think, keeps your exposure where it needs to be in the flex as well. So it's a dynamic slate, a lot of fun, a lot of different ways to go about it. We taught you guys touched on some 5-1 builds. It's wide open. We got a big total. I mean, the Ravens are projected to score like 29 points, and we have the Bengals, 23-24 range. Those are big boy numbers, and it should be a fun, appealing one tonight. So looking forward to diving in.
Yeah, the other thing too, just you mentioned another point there is like this cheaper captains. That's the other thing. I mean, if it's a low scoring slate, I think it's actually still one of the big names. If it's a high scoring slate, I still think it's one of the big names, and that's kind of how it sets up here. So
you don't have as much interest as it stands now in the cheaper stuff.
Not for me really right now. And again, that could bite me, but I'm okay with it. I think it's better to have like a Lamar, Henry, Burrow, Chase, somebody like that up there. I guess you could get away with, Mark Andrews is going to be in such a good spot here, but it's not like he's coming in super low owned. He's just more than easy enough to get leverage on him.
It's probably a good point. Honestly, I mean, you look at it, I mean, the odds have to be extremely high of like one of these guys, like nuking, like going off tonight, like Lamar, Chase, Burrow, Henry, Zay Flowers, Chase Brown, like one of those probably does go off and is the captain you need. So maybe reverse course and don't play cheap captains. We'll see.
I'll give another take on captain, and then I'm going to go to you, Title, to start us off with your captain thoughts. But I will say 3 leverage captains I love tonight, just off the top, is Derrick Henry, because no matter what, it's going to be Lamar over Henry. Like, it's just the way it is. But like I said, in a division game, second of the pairing, all of that, automatic, how good he is. Even if he gets like 12 or 13, I just don't see a world where he ever gets more than Lamar, because Lamar's only $300 more and does it all and gets the ball every time. So there's that. On the flip side of Lamar is the guy that threw 5 touchdowns recently, like with Joe Burrow. And yes, he's missing dudes, but he's got tons of guys that he can spread it around to and throw those touchdowns. Just one of the worst, if not the worst, pass defense. And they picked up Tre'Davious White, who doesn't even matter to me. Like, good for him. Nice name, long-term, awesome. But I don't even think he's in tonight, right? I'd have to look it up again. I don't know if they're going to get him into the mix right away. I'll check that out here shortly, or if anybody knows, throw it in the chat. So I'm not concerned about that. So he's opposite side Lamar. And then the other thing is a guy that Lamar may just hone in on here, and that's Zay Flowers. Nobody wants to give Zay his flowers, even though he's been dominating the league. It's been incredible to watch Zay Flowers, even in his bad games, have been like 8 for 132 or something and just didn't get in the box. He's affordable. He's 14-4 in the captain slot. So I think we got 3 really good leverage captains beyond the Jamar Chase, Lamar Jackson, obvious stuff. That's just the guys that I'd be willing to get in on and get leverage in. But Title, I'll kick it to you. Your thoughts on captain, cheap captain, any of the stuff I just talked about? I think there's lots of ways to go, but I like some of those right out of the gate.
Yeah, I agree with what you were telling Hoop, and Hoop came to agree. It seemed like I'm not really going cheap captain. The cheapest by far I'd go to is Mark Andrews. And again, if you play Mark Andrews, you have to be leaving money on the table, playing someone low owned. He's clearly mispriced at 4.2K. But other than that, I think the cheapest I might mix in, and that's if I'm playing a good amount of lineups, is Rashad Bateman. And again, that's a lot of lineups. He's going to be very low owned. Talking about leverage, that leverage is Zay Flowers stuff, Henry stuff, like Lamar to an extent. Obviously, they go together. But my favorite captain's by far Lamar, for the things I said. His upside is unmatched. You can do so many things with him in captain, playing with 3 pass catchers. There's enough cheap ones where like a Charlie Kohler, he catches 3 for 30. That could be on the optimal with Lamar. Andrews, what really cheap, etc. My second favorite, Zay Flowers, I think. I mean, I'm on the Ravens, and he's just been so good this year. This Bengals defense isn't any good. There's really nothing bad to say about Zay at 9.6K, and you'd also get like 1,200 savings off of Chase. You get 16 off of Henry. Burrow's even 800 more, so he's in a solid price range. My third favorite, and I've been going back and forth, it's either Chase or Chase Brown. The thing with Chase Brown is Zach Moss is going to be out for the regular season. Khalil Herbert was brought in this week. I do expect him to play, but like, how much does he play? I mean, I don't know. Joe Burrow can really just tell him anything he wants to do, but Zach Moss played 90% of snaps last week, or 80%, looked really good. And in any game script is what I like about him. Explosive out of the backfield, can catch passes. It doesn't matter if they're trailing or ahead. And man, this workload at 9K, and I think he's actually a good running back, leaves me a lot of interest in him. the thing, I do think I like Chase more than Henry. I'm going to play a little Henry, but I like Lamar a lot more, and I think I like Chase for 400 less. So, man, is it scary fading or being underweight on a minus 265 touchdown prop and with how good Derrick Henry's been. But I like Lamar more, and I think I like Chase more. But I will say both of them are projected higher than Derrick Henry. So that'll be a popular take. Henry will still get ownership as he always does. But yeah, I'm just going to go more Lamar Chase. The last one I'm going to mention, Andrews Gesicki stuff is interesting. I don't know. Gesicki stuff, I'll throw back to you, Tambo. He got there, obviously. He's actually a good tight end / wide receiver is how I look at him. But the snap share still was not great. He only played 36%. Eric All is out, but it was Drew Sample for the most part. They mix in Hudson. Like Burton will be back this week, and they went Irwin, so maybe they go 11 personnel a little more. I don't know. Do you have a lean on Gesicki, tight end captain?
He's almost 10K. He's almost 10K. So I think the whole field knows what they're doing with him, and I don't think they're anywhere near him. I think he might be 4 or 5%. Like, I mean, you could look at that as
5. Are you going to play any then? Or are you just 0?
I don't know. Like, when I build my stuff, it'll be up on the slate plan. I didn't build anything yet. I'm just saying I can't imagine. It's going to be very hard to get to a $10,000 Gesicki. He has to it either has to be a super low scoring game, or he has to almost do what he did last game, which I'm just not chasing that. They literally involved everyone you talked about. I like him in the flex. I think he's very fair, 6,600. You can make cases for that, but man, it's pretty tough to get to him up top. And I think everybody knows that. So you'd be able to get lower ownership on him up there, but you could also argue that it's probably more than he should be. Like, we have him as optimal captain 4.7% of the time. We've got him owned around 5. It's about even for even, but I like way more dudes. I also don't think many people are going to get to your Chase Brown one, just of note. I just don't think many people can get there. We'll see how the ownership actually shakes out when we get closer to lock, but how do they get there? Like Burrow, Chase, some are playing Gesicki like we just talked about. The other side's Lamar, Henry, Zay, Andrews, maybe guys after that. I just don't even see how Chase Brown gets as much ownership. So sure, he's a leverage play as well, but he's almost 14K in a very tough matchup, and you can play him in any script, but yeah, that'll be unique for sure if you go that way. Did you have something else there, Title? Sorry, I don't see it.
Yeah, it was just what's interesting with Gesicki. I think it was last slate we talked about too. The next highest price after Gesicki is Chase Brown at 9K. That's $2,400 we're talking. Right below that, Bateman is 800 less, and then you get like kickers and defense and all that. So it's just a really interesting range where like no one's gonna fall in it, and maybe I will. In 50 teams I play, 6% Bateman, 6% Gesicki. Very few are going in that range. Everyone's going up, or maybe Andrews more. And both the guys are going to be on the field. They have upside, as we've seen. So that's a really interesting thing that I noticed with pricing. But that's all I got.
Yeah, Hoop, did you want to add on to any of that stuff? Do you have a Gesicki thought there too, or?
It just feels like chasing a little bit. I don't know. I mean, he went off obviously last week, and I mean, it was like the one touchdown seemed like it seemed like a broken play type thing where he's wide open and walked it in for like 50, 60 yards. Like, I just don't see that happening tonight. If I'm playing like a cheap captain up there or cheaper captain, I'd probably just go to Andrews, just because I've been playing him for the last like 3 weeks, kind of like what I've seen out of him, or even I don't mind like the Bateman call probably over Gesicki. But just you guys talking about those dudes up top, I think Zay Flowers has to get squeezed like a little bit, and he's one that I really want to be on. I mean, he's truly benefiting from this Derrick Henry situation. I mean, again, we talk about these guys that are like wide open. Like he's getting the deep stuff. He gets the stuff behind the line of scrimmage. They'll do end arounds with him. Like, he's clearly benefiting big time from like the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry 1-2 punch. And I think that can absolutely continue tonight. So I really like him, and you know, the price tag, it's 9,600. Like, people view him as like a mid-tier, probably like wide receiver on these full slates. Well, now he's priced up there with all the big dogs on the slate, and I think he has to get squeezed a little bit. So very interested in him up top in the captain spot. So I mean,
Tucker,
what you need with Tucker, like it's the scenario that I talked about in the opening, where Lamar, Jamar Chase, Burrow, Henry, Flowers, Brown, none of them go over 30. They all stay, 25 and below, and then Tucker goes out and gets like, 15 to 18 fantasy points. Like, it's worked before. I mean, it's definitely worked on these high scoring slates where, the guy that gets like 15, a cheap guy that gets 15 to 18, you just need, because you need those other 5 dudes, or 4 dudes, whatever it may be, that get in that range but don't go off. Once, like you kind of talked about a little bit or alluded to in the opening, like once one of these guys go off, once Lamar goes off or Henry or whoever it is, once they go off, you're going to need them in captain. And, I think that is the biggest talking point on the slate. Do you think one of those 6 go off? If you think one of those 6 go off, you should not be playing any other captains. You shouldn't be playing the cheap captains. And after talking back and forth with you, I think that just might be the case on this slate. It just seems very likely that one of these dudes just goes off for at least 30-some fantasy points.
Yeah, I actually think this is pretty likely. It's just, anything can happen. It's this game, and obviously they'll get opportunities because of the injuries. I'm not saying that, but I mean, the other thing I was going to say is he's $1,800 more at captain to play Tucker than Mark Andrews. Like Mark Andrews here is a great spot. By the way, the Bengals have get lit up by tight ends all season, especially the week they played the Ravens the first time. It was likely going off, and other dudes that were involved there, even the polar bear, Charlie Kohler, he got a catch. And I think he had 3 catches for 50 or something. It was like, so, and then other teams recently, even some of the smaller outputs still included 50 yards and a touchdown. Like they can get crushed there. So it is pretty crazy, but obviously that setup would be, you need to play for, that type of game, right? You're just telling yourself that story, building your lineup around it. If I'm using Tucker, it's not because it fits me a bunch of stuff. He's 8,100. It's more of, I'm building those lineups to go that way. So I think you got to think of that as well when you're talking about it there. So, cool. Anything else, Hoop, from you? If not, you can talk about the quarterbacks. I don't have much else up at the captain, but I think we hit it pretty good.
What do you do with quarterbacks for Burrow, Tambo?
Burrow for sure. Yeah, I don't know why people wouldn't. It's literally perfect leverage. He could be half the ownership of Lamar Jackson, and he has the best matchup. He's been pretty solid, and even though it's actually more condensed, but there's the ability to spread it out more. And if he does that, he can certainly put up 35 and then 30 to 35 DK points is possible if it's a high scoring game. And then you get the 1.5x up top. He's 15-6 versus Lamar 17-1. Pair him up. Tons of different ways to play him too, by the way. I should note that actually good you brought it up. You can play Burrow with no Chase as well. Just that's another thing. If you're saying it's not Chase up top, most people that go Burrow and captain, it's almost like building main slate lineups. People start with their quarterback, build out their stack, get their run back. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying this case is the same way. Anybody who's hand building is going to put Burrow, Jamar Chase, and then figure out the pieces they can fit in. Well, if you think it's going to be high scoring and it's not going to be Jamar Chase that does it, there's still plenty of outcomes that happens. He throws 1 touchdown and 80 yards and you still need Jamar Chase. But I'm saying there's fun with that build. You could have a Joe Burrow with a Gesicki, Yoshi Voss and Chase Brown or something, and just have them scoring a bunch. Burrow does more than Chase Brown. Jamar Chase doesn't, and you still have money to fit good Ravens on the other side. So I actually think that's a great play tonight. Mentioned it off the top. He's one of those 3, really it's 4 leverage captains because it's Burrow, it's Henry. I guess it's 3 for sure, but Zay Flowers fits into that mix as well because he's another guy that's opposite of Chase, not Lamar, a guy Lamar would throw to, all of that combined. So that's all I got. I think
one question on that, just on the captain stuff. Just curious, do you guys think, like, just looking at this, and everyone's going to look at the projections and see that there's a clear top tier of projected guys? Like, there's 6 guys that are the projected to score more than everyone else. Do you think there's a chance that when people go in and build, that it just gets spread out? Maybe all these guys get like 12 to 18%. Do you think that's viable, possible?
I think Burrow would probably be like the 7-8 range. Lamar probably low 20s. Then I think you get the Chase, Henry, Zay, Chase Brown.
And the rest kind of fall in between.
What you're saying,
yeah.
Because quarterbacks, people always are hesitant for, just like, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it feels like not rushing quarterbacks mainly. You don't look at Burrow as a rusher, and then everyone loves Lamar obviously for the reasons, and he's priced close enough to Henry, Chase, and projected more. Yeah, I think it's probably like that. Those 4 with Lamar and Burrow, low 20s, high teens.
Yeah. Well, I think I've fully talked myself out of the cheaper captain stuff, to be honest, after having these conversations. But maybe Mark Andrews, because I think he has multiple touchdown upside. We've seen it, and it hasn't been great for him, but he is converting all his targets into receptions. So let me just fix this up. There we go. All right. In terms of the quarterbacks, that was the initial question. Just as much of these guys as possible, like in the flex for sure. Very high floors. I mean, that's definitely what you want. And, it's going to be as much as possible. And some of those other guys actually prefer more in the captain spot that we'll get to, like Jamar Chase and Zay Flowers, probably prefer them more in the captain slot opposed to like the flex. Obviously going to play him in flex as well, but these quarterbacks, just very solid captain options like we talked about, and then flex options as well.
We're shipping tonight. Look at this dry run. Fixed it properly, everything. There's no chance. It wants to give 44% Lamar and 25% Mark Andrews, 10% Jamar Chase, and then nothing. No Burrow, no Henry, no Chase Brown, no Bateman, no. 2%. I'm calling it no, but I mean that's no. That's nothing. These are all amazing captain plays. Zay, Henry, Burrow, and then maybe even Chase Brown's really tough. I don't even know if I'll get there, but at least Title brought it up, so we can lean on that. If you're right, good for you, Title. I won't get there as much, but I think it was a good point that you brought up. It's like games
minus 115 to score too. Like that's a pretty surprising number.
For two or to score as well?
No, just a two score.
Gotcha. I was like, damn, that's pretty freaking good.
That'd be insane.
Now I'm more interested. What is Derrick Henry to score two?
Minus to score two. Where do you get that on DK?
We can look it up after, but I don't know. Hoop, do you see?
I see 3+. Where the heck's 2+? Exactly.
Andrews, by the way, Hoop. Yoshi Voss, this is your thing right here, Hoop. This is where you click off it, right? You just.
I mean, I don't know if I would place like 60%. Like I think I would make. I wouldn't play him at 60. There's no way I'd play him at 60. And he's he is, again, I know we talked about this a lot. I think it's important, but he's a perfect guy for those Burrow captain teams. Like we've seen him be a red zone target. Like we've seen him be a multiple red zone target guy. So he's perfect for Burrow captain teams. But no, I don't think I would do the 60% Yosivach. I mean, these guys are gonna get jammed in there for sure. Andrews, Yoshi for sure. I would 100%. I think like right now, capping him at like something like 40, I think it is viable, and I'd probably cap Mark Andrews a little bit as well. And I guess I'm kind of curious to see like, so Mark Andrews, if you capped him, what's he coming in? Just cap him at 50 and just see what happens when you rerun it. Probably going to start to see what's going to happen is Lamar Jackson's captain ownership is going to come down a little bit, and then you're going to start to see some of those other guys trickle in there. Probably Burrow goes up, Chase Brown goes up, maybe even like Zay Flowers comes up a little bit too, would be my guess. But yeah, I don't think I would just run the 60 Yoshi. That's a little bit too much in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the juju spot, and then people are talking about
So now hit the lock button, and based on our track record, that means hit the lock button.
People don't like it. I mean, this is what makes it fun tonight. But I mean, certainly in Showdown, that's lovely stuff right there. Yeah, maybe take till the end, but if he wants to catch, look at Miller. Hoops boy Miller on the
Miller time, baby.
It wasn't Miller time until it was literally the last drive of the game for them, and he got in the box. So it's like that's kind of what you're waiting on with some of these dudes, for sure. The other thing, our guy Nades is talking about Irwin. B1 is talking about Jermaine Burton. Actually, is the guy he's talking about. The guy, if you saw, he was playing the slots last weekend after he was scratched from the game. Had the same hoodie on that he was rocking. If you watch the sideline stuff where Joe Burrow. Extremely disappointed in his dude. Like, come on, you got to get your shit together. And when you don't get to play and you get scratched after we drew up a ton of plays for you and had a plan to include you and involve you in the game, and you don't show up, don't even sit on this bench, man. Get off, get up, get back, get over there. And so that's what he told him. Maybe though, he's in play tonight. I'm assuming he's going to be in for this one. They showed him getting on the bus today. I saw the video earlier, everybody hopping on the bus. So lots of ways you can do it. But I mean, that's another thing. If you want to cap Yoshi Voss here, you could do that, and then you could go back to players and find some other guys that you like down here, like Jermaine Burton, and go in and set a minimum and say, I know I'm dropping my max down on Yoshi Voss, but I'm going to get Burton into the mix. And then if you see them popping into if you see them popping into a bunch of lineups together, it's not likely, but if you did, then you can go to player groups and separate them in here. So I mean, this is the power of the optimizer, whether you're playing one lineup, 150. Obviously, it makes your life a lot easier to be able to build 150 lineups. But the power of the optimizer is that it doesn't really matter. It's helpful in more ways than one. So, all right, Hoop, want to talk any more on these quarterbacks? I think we spent a lot just talking about them up in the captain, but just in general, otherwise, anything else you got to mention at quarterback?
Yeah, just as much. I mean, they're definitely going to get it as much as possible in the flex. Lamar Jackson obviously up top, Burrow up top, like we talked about. But in the flex, I want as much as possible, and it could be challenging tonight, honestly, because we have so many guys that are good plays. Like it might be a challenge when you go in there and build to get a lot of these guys because they are expensive. So it'll be interesting, but I'll make sure to get a good chunk.
Yeah, I will note this too before I kick it to title, but just shout out to our guy Derek. Saw it earlier. I missed the comment, but he said he took a little bit of time to get the kids on their independent schedule. He's a teacher, always here to support, and we appreciate you, Derek. He said, it's time to lock in with the fellas. I actually don't even like 4. I would like, 7-7-6 or 12-8, and to each their own. It's all risk versus reward. You can play one captain in 20 if they are the winning captain and you need them. You got lots of outs to the top in still what's probably a pretty large field. If they miss, you just move on to the next slate and say, that's the way I play. So some people do this. I like playing a 2 to 3. I don't really like playing 5-5-5-5. But again, there's no set magic number that somebody knows that, hey, if you play 5-4-4 this, you actually win. It's not a magic button, right? So it's
a tough question, especially on a slate like this where there's so many like guys that you want to play up there. So I would play, what's the best way to put this? Play as many as you can where you're overweight on them, like where you're getting above the field, where you're creating some leverage. Don't just play all the popular ones at where the field is. Make sure you have some leverage points. And if you have to eliminate 1 or 2, then do it that way. Just make sure you're getting above the field on the main ones for sure.
Yeah, Money Modge bringing the good stuff today. Speaking my language. Yeah, it doesn't mean shit for a 1-game slate for DFS and what we're doing. So you're correct. Thank you for bringing that in. I do appreciate that. That's certainly that. And it's a risk tolerance question. Like our guy Billy, who's been throwing some good stuff in there. He had earlier too. I will try and scroll back and find that one. But he said, hard to get to Chase Brown. Title, I know you're going to talk quarterbacks in a second, but you can take it right into running back with this. Hard to get to him. And Nick Chubb, the best case scenario so far, and that's recently. So maybe they're getting worse. I don't know. That's the most they've given up, and it was when Chase came back for his first game back. So thought your title. Anything else you want to add?
The stone shows that if you look at it, F pass D, rush D A. Obviously, Chase Brown doesn't look great on paper, but if you look at the price range, he's a lot lower owned than them. You get leverage off of stuff. And again, he doesn't need to get it through the ground, but he also is the type of guy that he can break a 70-yard run. Like he's just that explosive workhorse, no Zach Moss. You talk about it all the time, Tam. Like individual matchups, Surtain's on him. It's a 1-game slate. One play changes it all. People, I think, overvalue that stuff. And then I'll take the ownership discount. When I win, give me it once every 3 years, 6 figures. I'd be good that way. So I'm playing Chase Brown for sure. Good segue to running back. He is my favorite running back at ownership. I'm probably going to be under Henry. I know, it's scary. I'm not saying I'm fading Henry, but I like Lamar a lot more. Like I very well might have 100% Lamar. Captain, flex, just like he's the guy today for me. So after that, there's Chase Brown cheaper, Jamar Chase, Burrow, Zay Flowers. I think I'm going to be playing more of them, and any Henry team, I can drop down, I can play one of them. Cut out dupes that way. Again, Henry's a great play. Look at the game log. Look at 6-point favorites, big total. There's nothing bad to say. It's just if Henry fails, Zay has a better chance of doing good. Bateman has a better chance of doing good. Lamar, I will be playing some Justice Hill. What if the Bengals get up early? We saw it week 1. Henry, in game scripts, they're trailing. His playing time goes down. Hills goes up. That's a perfect direct leverage right there, built for Bengals winning or at least leading the game that way. Bengals stuff, don't play Travion Williams. I think it'll be Khalil Herbert as the backup. It's a really just dart throw, 150 type stuff. Who knows his role? He was just signed this week. Chase Brown had a great game, got most of the work. I expect that to continue. So just a really low-owned pivot from those guys down below in large field stuff. I don't even think I can mention Keaton Mitchell, who will be back today. He is 2-4. But, man, Justice Hill's been good as RB2. What kind of role is Keaton Mitchell going to get? Maybe a designed run or two. Good to see him back after the awful knee injury. But Chase Brown's my favorite. Obviously, Henry's great, but I will be underweight today. And, I think that's it. I prefer receivers and tight ends when we get there over running backs.
Yeah, I like that breakdown. I think also, too, just some of the little things, like you said, the Justice Hill one being a key piece. Maybe you're setting up. Maybe this is the ship, or you get your Chase Brown up top. he does the work early. They get an early touchdown. They, maybe the D picks up a little something. They just stay in there tight and then get another one. And now it's Lamar and Justice Hill on the run back. That's the bonus title core he never knew belonged to him. Chase Brown in the captain with Lamar and Justice Hill in the flex. There you go. All right.
I like it.
Hoop, I'll go to you. Same question. I thought Title already broke it down pretty good at running back, gave some good concepts there, but anything you want to add at the running back position?
In full lockstep with my boy Title at the position, likely going to be underweight on Derrick Henry. Unfortunately, it does not feel good, but you can't be overweight on everyone. And I just prefer like the pass catchers, and like it's still 11-2 price tag, like in the flex. Like I gotta be on the quarterbacks over him. So I'll be underweight, probably captain Derrick Henry and underweight flex Derrick Henry. And it's scary as hell. I'm not going to fade him. I'm going to play him, but I'm going to be lower than the field on Derrick Henry, and then love the Chase Brown stuff. Like he can get there multiple ways. Yeah, the Ravens do have a really good run defense, as you can see here, but one play, man, is all it takes, and he can catch passes too. And I really like what I saw to him. And then I believe last time the Ravens were on a showdown Slate or whatever, it was early in the season, like Justice Hill was on the optimal. And again, will it happen tonight? Not likely, but it could. 5,200. His role, he can get it all in a hurry, man. Like one 2-minute warning situation, and he can get everything he needs, right in that short period of time. $5,200 price tag, not
that's
super
steep, isn't it? I don't know if it's one
drive
anymore for Mr. Justice Hill at 5,200.
Yeah, it is. It's up there. Like he's above the kickers. He's above a lot of cheap guys. That's why I do think it's going to be like, what are we showing for ownership here? It's got to be lower, I'm guessing, than even what we're thinking. I would imagine that comes. I'd imagine low. I don't know, 12, 13, 14% because of all these cheap wide receivers. So, looking at this at what do we have? 19%. I'm not thrilled to play Justice Hill at 5,200. I just don't think it's going to be that high of a number. I think we get him like more 12, 13. And you're right. It is at 52. He probably does need to do more than, 2-minute drive. So you're probably right there. So maybe not as excited about Justice Hill after we're talking through it here, but I still want to include him in my player pool because I don't think he's going to get, close to 20%. But, Chase Brown, then Henry, then Hill. Henry again for me, it's probably going to be an underweight stance tonight, and man, it sure as hell does not feel good.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple things. One, I just brought that up. I think things can be correct and others not, in the sense of like this could be a pretty fair projection. I just think he's almost the same price as Bateman, and I think Bateman's ownership is correct. And I think because of all the cheap guys we're about to get to, that we see this 18 come down by the time our stuff locks in closer to lock. So it is tougher to get to Justice Hill. That's the play if you're going there on how to do it on a trailing game script, whatever it might be. Maybe even a quick loop up over the top from Lamar and then he takes it in or something. That's great. But it like to Hoop's point, my point with the pricing, he does need to do a little bit more there. So there's that. I got a couple more comments though before we go to wide receiver, and we'll spend more time at wide receiver probably. But one, the two cheap dudes like Herbert got in the mix. They got him involved and he's up on the playbook, they said, and all that. Like, I'm not trying to figure this out. I get it. Like, I think this is a fantastic slate. And that's not even one of the reasons, because it's almost impossible to project him for a real number that you'd have any idea about. So you would have to change your stuff, do it that way, and figure it out from there. So that's, if you want to do it, go ahead. Same thing on Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens. Sounds like he's going to be back in the mix tonight again too. Just again, not trying to figure that stuff out. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I feel much better about all the other options we have, and you can play them just to be different. But I just think there's there's so many ways to be different tonight that I don't even think you need to get there. And even in higher or lower scoring games, I don't see them being as big of a part of it. So I feel very good about where I'm at. The last thing I'll say, just wait for them crown emojis to get sent in Discord, boys. I don't know why, but this is like the best leverage play we might have got all season if ownership does what I expect it to. Because in flex, almost the same price. Captain, almost the same price. It doesn't make sense. It's Lamar. I get it. He's so cheap. But so many Lamars, Hurts, Allens, expensive quarterbacks that look like the nuts fail on showdown slates. And oftentimes their ownership isn't actually associated with who they are and what they're capable of. In this case, the best running back in football, as many will say. But I believe he's a quarterback, an MVP quarterback, that is. And it's nothing to do with that. It's all to do with value on the slate. You have a million ways to get to him, so why wouldn't I just play Lamar? That doesn't mean he's the best play. So remember that. There's other factors. He's shown as the most optimal, but everything else reflects that. His projection forces that. His ownerships reflect it. There's tons of other captains on this slate. When the King Henry emojis start getting posted in Discord tonight, don't be surprised. They're going to jam this guy. It's November. We're getting even closer to December. He does better. They have almost a 30-point team total, and it all depends on what you think's happening. I think the Bengals stay in the game, but if they don't, it gets even better for Henry. The more they go up, the more that happens. Just jam it. And I really like Henry quite a bit tonight, actually, so I'll leave it at that. But Title, kick it back to you, man. Let's go into wide receiver. Lots to talk about here.
That most definitely a lot to talk about. I'll start with the Baltimore side, and I mean, I think it's pretty clear for a lot of it. Baltimore is definitely clear. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman got pretty much all the work, and they did get Deontay Johnson over from the Panthers, obviously. He was mixed in. He had 17 routes. Aguilar had 19 routes. This Wallace dude had 20. So that part's tough, and I think I want to make a rule, max one of those guys, because they also are fine going 2 tight end sets. It will be interesting if they go a little less of that with no likely today. But you mentioned Charlie Kohler multiple times. Like, he had a real role on that team. I love Zay. He's by far my favorite on the slate. I really like Bateman at his price too, because, I mean, we've seen big Bateman games. The price is very fair. Again, I talked earlier, Gesicki, Bateman in a tier of their own around like kickers and that, and no one's really above them. So why couldn't Bateman outscore Chase Brown? Why can't Bateman outscore Zay Flowers? We've seen it before. So I'm definitely in on Zay and Bateman. Again, I do like the Ravens today. I know you're a Ravens guy, so maybe you can talk me into Aguilar, Deontay, this Wallace stuff. I'm going to probably have some in my pool, but I'm thinking max one right now. You could change my mind. Bengals side, it's easy because it's Chase and Yoshibas. 88% of snaps, Chase, 91 Yoshibas. They do run a lot of 2 tight end sets as well. Again, no Eric All, but Sample, Gesicki, Tanner Hudson when we get there. When they do run 11 personnel, it'll be interesting, though. Everyone, we just talked about the Burton thing extensively. He was supposed to have a big role. The dude doesn't show up. He's playing slots after. He's a rookie. Like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, you're a rookie. You finally got there. Higgins is hurt. You have your chance. You don't show up. I don't know what's going on.
Crazy.
It's crazy indeed. It makes zero sense. But like CT, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, you think he probably, like, he's better than Trent Irwin. He can at least extend the field. He has that big play upside that can break a slate. So I know I prefer him to Irwin. That's a rule I'd probably make max one. Like, those two are going to eat into each other, but they also are cheap. I don't know, man. I think I'm going to play a good amount of Burton. I'm looking at 8%. They wanted him last week. Hopefully they really sat him down, got things straight, and he has big play upside. So he's my I'm going to play a lot of Chase, Yoshibas, Zay, Bateman. I think it's very, very clear. Can leave money as pivots. After that, though, Burton's my favorite, and it's scary. But talk to me with this Ravens wide receiver 3 situation.
Yeah, I actually think you nailed it. Like, that was what I was going to say, too. I certainly think Deontay just ramps up a little bit more this week, and I think it really hurts a guy like Nelson Aguilar. So it's going to come down to if you even think you'll get them, but they're close enough in price. I don't even think you're going to – again, the Tylan Wallaces, the who else can I say from earlier? Like the Khalil Herberts, the Mitchells, all those guys. If they, crush me on this slate, that's fine. I'm pumped up for this slate. Won't hurt my feelings. I've been super pumped for slates before that didn't go my way, but I don't see how, when I have a million different ways with different captains, roster construction, leaving money, a million different things that I can do tonight, instead of trying to find that play and have that thing even be needed or hurt me. Like Tylan Wallace could get a touchdown tonight and not be needed with all the studs that we have and the different constructions that you can do. So to me, I'm just sticking to that. And I think, Hoop, you've sort of been doing the same. Hopefully that answers your question. Title on the
one more.
The
do you have any clue why he went from 5 snaps, 10, 6, all the way to 20, and that was Deontay's first game? Did Zay and Bateman's were down a little bit. Did Zay get hurt a bit?
I can't remember. Maybe the chat remembers too. If there was something.
I think he left the game for a little bit. If I recall correctly.
Something's telling me that too. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's right. And these guys, I mean, this is the best about our Discord is just phenomenal. Saw some stuff in there today, especially on the NBA side of things, just incredible. Shout out to Little Neck BG and all the other members that are just chiming in on a daily basis. But like new ones in here talking game theory in the YouTube chat. And then Billy coming back with the right ideas. Like, this is the best, right? This is what it's all about. So really appreciate that, guys. Definitely breaking it all down. Certainly something to look at there. The Burton stuff, to kick back to that, I guess I was going to kick it to Hoop, and hopefully that answered yours. But the one thing I want to bring up there, I guess, Hoop, I'll kick it to you, because how do you think the team handles this? They already gave him shit. Like, Burrow gave him a piece of his mind. Chase said he had a talk with him before that, and he's not going to do it no more. He said he's a grown man. He can show up if he wants to show up. I've been there myself. By the way, there was a game where Chase missed, and interestingly enough, the storyline on this, I'm always deep diving it, you know it. Chase missed or was late for a practice, came into play. Guess who he played? The Ravens. Guess what he dropped? 201 yards and a touchdown. So maybe you want to play narratives on something like that. Jermaine Burton, not Jamar Chase to me, but if you want to get up, to play a little bit differently, I mentioned it earlier, that would be a way. But Hoop, do you think they say, continue to punish him for this, or say, how do we get this guy's head in the game? Well, let's get him in the game. Let's get him involved. Let's make him a part of this offense so he knows how good this could be for him, and get him dialed back in, because you don't want to waste a pick or a player or a guy like this when you could get to using them. But how long do you discipline them for, too? Short season.
Yeah. Well, so they're down pass catchers, obviously. No T. Higgins. Now Eric All, who is a big part of what they're doing, gone as well. I'm playing them. I'm playing a lot of them. I hope the ownership remains in check. Like, we're talking about a $2,200 wide receiver at 8% ownership, right? So if you want to be in on him and you don't want to go super in on him, you play him at 10%. If they're still punishing his ass, 10% of your lineups are dead. Whip-de-doo, depending on what you do, depending on how many teams you make. So it's like not a huge risk at the price tag and the ownership to say, all right, they're going to have him go out there and be a part of the team. The punishment's over. We need him. Like, that's the side that I'm going to be on. I hope the ownership remains in check, because I want to play this guy, and I'm going to play him at a pretty big rate. But again, if you are somewhat skeptical of the situation, fade him. That's fine. If you're a little bit in, a little bit out,
play Irwin.
And play Irwin. Yeah. So to me, like, it's not much of a risk at less than 10% ownership and a $2,200 price tag. So I'm going to be in on him, and that's my opinion there. Agree with you guys on the other cheap dudes. Like, I'm not fucking with Wallace and guys like that on this slate. Like, if they beat me, like, okay, that's fine. I'll see you Sunday for the main slate. Like, I'm cool with stuff like that. The one guy that's interesting to me, and I'm going to play some, and I think his ownership does come down because everyone kind of has the projection super low, is Deontay Johnson. And again, he's not going to have like a full-on role this week, but it has to be more than last week, right? It has to be more. They're projected to score 29. They traded for the guy. They want to get him involved. He's going to be involved. 4,800 is a little bit uncomfortable because we have like Justin Tucker there, and there's other guys in the range that you're going to want to play over him. Mark Andrews as well is going to be right there. I'm going to be in on Deontay, especially on in like Lamar Jackson captain teams. I think the ownership probably ends up lower. We're showing 12. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets under 10, just because everywhere you look, like, they have a low projection number on him. Just has to be more involved than he was last week. Is it going to be like a DeAndre Hopkins situation where it's like full, like nothing, and then like full go? Probably not. But at 4,800, team projected to score 30. He's going to have an increased role this week. I do have interest in Deontay Johnson. And probably a little bit less in Aguilar. I'll probably play Aguilar as well, but if Deontay Johnson has a bigger role, it's going to be at the expense of a guy like Nelson Aguilar. Rashad Bateman's looked great, man. I just can't imagine them scaling back on him. We talked about Zay Flowers, how he's benefited from, the Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson success on the ground. Like, Bateman just gets wide open, man. And 5,800 is, again, one of those price tags that's like, do I really want to pay 58 for Bateman? So ownership should be in check. I think he's a good play. Talked about Yoshi, very solid. The guys up top, Chase, Zay Flowers, love them both. Something just tells me Zay Flowers like goes off. So I want a lot of him, obviously, in captain and flex as well. And then, not really going to play a ton of Trent Irwin, because I think that I'm going to bank on them giving Burton a legitimate chance here today.
Yeah, the Irwin stuff is certainly going to mix in. I'm going to separate those two. I don't see a world where it's Burton and Irwin. It's certainly possible, but again, if that type of thing kills, I have to look. Maybe I won't say the rule specifically, because I'd have to look at the lineup. Like I said, I do have some interest to a Burrow captain tonight that does not include Chase. I just think it would probably end up more like Burton and Gesicki or something like that instead. But I'll have to look at it and see. Kenny did bring up a good point. Like, they didn't give up anything for him either. I do think, like Hoop said, they'll want to get him involved. But I think it's what we said. And when Title asked about it, that's exactly how I saw it too. I think it's kind of just get rid of Aguilar. It's kind of the setup there, right?
Yeah, and like that's just the market for these wide receivers, which is kind of surprising. I mean, the Chiefs gave up nothing for DeAndre Hopkins, and he's going to be like their wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season. So I mean, yeah, I get that they gave up nothing, but there's a reason they brought him in, and it's not to sit on the bench. So I'm going to take some chances because I do think the ownership is lower than what it's showing around the industry.
Yeah, certainly. I agree there too. And it also reflects like he's 4,800. So you got to get a little something out of him. But I think when the snaps go up and there is more chance, and if they put up the actual if they put up their 30 points, that always boosts everybody, right? All of their squad is involved. And we certainly agree that he's going to play more and eat up more of Aguilar's lunch. Likely is out. There's all kinds of role and opportunity for him tonight. So I definitely don't hate that. I will say to this one, I looked a lot better in pictures 5 years ago, too. A little healthier, a little thinner, all those things. Like, people did stuff on different teams years ago that has literally nothing to do with tonight. So just little things like that, not something I'm going to consider, but I think there's some other reasons, and Hoop made some good points there. So our guy Rob, shout out to RM here, says, Hoop's lawn is great for flowers. I said it earlier, Zay still hasn't got his flowers. He's the guy, man. Everyone thinks he's like a basic wide receiver. He's been killing them all season long. So I love to see it. He's certainly made Lamar look a lot better, bro. I had hair a few years exactly when Deontay Johnson was killing the Bengals as a Steeler. A lot of things were going on differently.
I mean, like those analogies, like looking back, like that stuff. That's like, yeah, if my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle. Like, I mean, that's like, it's totally. It's just those comments are just.
The chat got all the good ones now. I was jacked 5 years ago. Yeah, lots of stuff. Shit, I was married then, Derek. Sorry, man. Oh, man, this is too good. Lots of good stuff going on. But, I love this chat for that reason. So, all right.
One last thing on that. How much 11 and 12 personnel do you like? Do you think the Ravens go more 11 with no likely, or you think they'll just jam Kohler and Andrews a lot? Like, what are your thoughts? Because they've ran a bunch of 2 tight end sets. I mean, sometimes even 3. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends on the game, the score.
If they're trailing 11,
if the Bengals are able to keep, if the Bengals are able to keep this competitive, I think they do a little bit less of that stuff than they normally do because having Likely's a legit pass catcher. You're going to a guy like Kohler that's obviously more blocking type stuff. So if it's a close competitive game, I think they do a little bit less of that, and then we have the opportunity for Deontay Johnson to get more reps than maybe even Aguilar. These are good comments.
The Julius then came back. He's mad. He said title is still in diapers, but oh man. I was gonna say, I guess this one was the only one that came up, title, and you could take us to tight end, but was like, any thought on that? Like they just start fitting them in for that stuff? Because I'm not a big 11, 12 personnel expert. I don't know too much about that. And again, make Likely's out. Like I just think there's more nuance to this slate because of all of these things. So I guess my thoughts were like, do you see that being a thing? I don't even know how they would play it here, where it's like, hey, let's ease him in this way and just give him an easy roll. And he racks up, 6 for 65, maybe gets a touchdown. I think it's really interesting at 4,800 if that happens.
Yeah. The reason I do think he gets involved a bit, I think he's better than Aguilar. I think they know it. I think he should be taking over in 3 receiver sets. So they'll ease him in. He should know the playbook another week down. I do like what Hoop said, though, and kind of what I'm building in my S 11 and 12 is, like, if I knew they'd be an 11 personnel a lot more than 12, Deontay gets a huge bump there, and the ownership really doesn't follow. And I do think you're probably right, Hoop. Like, if they're up 7-14, pound it with Derrick Henry, go big, 2 receivers, and play like they usually have. But if they're down, like, that's when you can definitely see them run a lot more 3 receivers because they still have Aguilar and Deontay and want to mix them in, too. So I don't really have too much more to add there. Tight end, though. I love tight end today. I hope at least 1 tight end's on the winner. I would probably love to see 2 tight ends on the winner. Start with Gesicki. Talked about him a lot. I love people saying he's too expensive. He does look like that, but he's also in a range not many are going to go. So I like him. Andrews, he's one of the most popular values on the slate with no likely. There's obvious reasons to like him. Drew Sample at 2.6K. He's right in between Herbert and Mitchell. We both agreed, or I'm on the same page. I don't like those guys much. You have Yoshi, boss, for higher owned for above. Burton's right below, who's not going to be too owned, but He had 76% of the snap share last week. The other ones all got hurt. He had 20%. Gesicki 36, Hudson 27. Like Drew Sample is on the field a ton. 3/4 of the snaps. Is he a great pass catcher? No, he's mainly meant for blocking. You give me anyone at pretty low ownership for cheap that's on the field this much, I'm in at 2.6. Next guy, Tanner Hudson, 1.6K. Like Burton, I think's fine above, but otherwise in that range, I prefer Hudson to Irwin. I don't like Irwin much. Otherwise, there's no one around there. So if you want a cheap play, Tanner Hudson, he was on the field a little bit. Go down a little more, Charlie Kohler. He looks like the best play outside of Andrews probably because of his price. Only $600. There's only 2 tight ends. Andrews still last week, like I don't see them giving Andrews 75+% of the snaps or anything. Maybe I'm wrong there, but Kohler 39%, Andrews 49%. Some 2 tight end sets. You can't find anyone below 1K that's worth clicking down there, in my opinion. Kohler is that guy. Will be on the field a lot. You can drop down from Yoshibas to Kohler and leave 3K. You can drop down from Deontay, from Justice Hill. Heck, you can even drop down from Gesicki to Kohler and leave 6K. So plenty of tight ends will be on the field. That's going to be 5 of them. Gesicki, Hudson, Sample for the Bengals, Andrews, Kohler. Them on the field. They're cheap. I'm going to be playing a lot of tight ends. I hope one. Pretty much I kind of hope 2 are on the optimum today. That'd be good for me.
Yeah, I like that the Cincy side more, like spreading it around, because I think like the Tanner Hudsons of the world, the Samples, they can all just get in there for the cheap guys if you're getting them. I like Gesicki way more in flex than like we talked about, put him at a captain earlier. But I mainly like these guys more because 2 reasons. One, if I'm playing my Derrick Henry up top, they're going to be needing these guys coming back. It means they're probably down in the game. They're just tossing it around to as many guys as possible. 2, when I flip the Lamar quarterback, another Lamar leverage play I talked about, the L in Lamar stands for leverage, and there's multiple ways. You can get it on Lamar himself and go way overweight, or you can leverage against him and play these other guys that make perfect sense on the opposite spots. And I think Burrow, when I do that, if I go away, even when I'm playing with Chase in the flex, to be honest, then it's like if I go Chase with Hudson or Sample instead of Chase Gesicki, that people automatically try and fit in and just land on the same build as everybody else, I'm going to be able to get a ton of different ways in those builds. So I like them a little bit more. I guess, kicking it to you, Hoop, on the Ravens side of things, like the Andrews Kohler, like Andrews, man, he's going to be super owned for good reason. I like him up top at 6,300. You'll get similar lineups to most, but there's ways to get different. But maybe play them with Kohler together or something, like Lamar up top with both of them in the flex, and just call them $4,800 for 2. It's $4,800 for 2 guys, and you take 2 spots up. That's how I would look at it, the combo pack.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna group these guys out. I'm playing a lot of them. I feel good about them. Both these quarterbacks like throwing to tight ends, and they and backup tight ends too. Like they'll definitely throw to these guys. So I'm very, even if someone is labeled like a blocking tight end, like they could be successful in the Bengals and Ravens offense. So on all these guys, Gesicki, Andrews, Sample, Hudson, Kohler, I think all really solid plays on this slate, all very affordable. And again, like the main reason I like these guys, again, like, do you feel comfortable with a Sample, Hudson, Kohler, like their names? Like, no, hell no. But there's injuries on both sides here, likely, and then the Eric All and Higgins on the Bengals side. And I know both these quarterbacks will throw to whoever's on the field, and especially the tight end position. So kind of, agree with, what Title laid out there. Not too much more to add. Yeah,
we'll do kickers D quick, but I'm just saying, like, that's the other thing too, is those guys like Sample and Hudson were already in the mix with All in the mix. Like all 4 of them were in there. Everyone was pissed off that Gesicki wasn't coming through, and then everybody was pissed off that he did because he broke the slate as chalk. That's DFS and NFL DFS for you in a nutshell. But I definitely think that, there's something to that because they're missing multiple. They're still missing Higgins, even though they bring Burton back in this time versus not before. They were using those tight ends before anyway. So I don't know. Hoop, I'll stay with you. Kickers and Ds. Anything quick you want to add there?
A little bit different approach for me at defense. I always say, like, whatever I get, I'll take and move on. Today, I'm not playing either of them. I'm just gonna fully fade on, and they're gonna come with, it's not a ton of ownership, but people will play them. They'll just be fades for me. Like, I love all the pass catchers that are priced right around these guys, and I could see a scenario where one of these defenses does do well and gets you 10, 11, 12 points, but one of the cheap guys outscores them. So I'm going to fade both defenses most likely. Again, I haven't built, but I can't imagine that I'm going to get any. And then I'm in on the kickers, Justin Tucker, and then McPherson. Fine with both, but the one thing for sure is I'll be fading those defenses today.
How close is Bellevue, Washington to anywhere near Baltimore?
That's a hell of a question.
I'm doing some extra research for the people, and what I was really checking in on was Tanner Hudson versus Drew Sample. Now, Drew Sample I know like when Washington played the Ravens recently, everyone's like, oh, it's a close game. It's a battle of these two teams and all this stuff. So obviously the state that they're in, all of that stuff. So I just wondered because Drew Sample went to school there and was born there, but Tanner Hudson's birthday is this weekend. So is one of those guys getting the touchdown was the question. But, if nothing else, just have to look into that stuff. So title, kickers, and Ds to round it out. What do you got?
If you're playing MMA Saturday and you like your birthday narrative, underdog Cody Stamen, it's his birthday on fight day. So there you go, Tambo.
That's what I like, man. That's what I like. Give me that. That's winner, automatic.
There you go. I'm with Hoop on I'm not playing Bengals D, but I am playing Ravens D because like as 6-point favorites at home, if they get out 14-0 or something and make Burrow drop back 50 times, they can pin their ears back and make a lot of plays. So I'm definitely playing some Ravens, no Bengals D. I don't know, man. I'm kind of indifferent with these kickers. Like, they definitely have to do something. I like Bateman in the range. I like Gesicki. I like Andrews. And you can save money and go like the Yoshi bosses of the world. Deontay for lower owned his pivots. So I'm going to play some, but I don't love them today.
Oh, Kenny did have a good one in here. We do get a fair I'm big on sample size. And this one we might have to have a little sample of Drew in the lineups tonight because he's an option as well. So, yeah, I like that call. And, I don't have much else on the kickers and Ds. The only thing I will say, just that, again, now people are looking for picks, plays, fades, exacts, all this stuff. We'll get exact player pool, slate plan, everything on the site once we get our final numbers up. We can't be more honest and transparent and exact than that. That's what goes up on the site once we get our finals. This is just to talk through the slate. And one thing that just hit my mind, and this would be the slate for it, trust me, AFC North battle, second game of the season. We have not had we haven't yet. Have we had a D captain win yet?
Why even go there?
30 points, Ravens D just Prince. That's going to be the
so much great momentum on the show, and then you start talking.
He even opened up, no cheap captains, and now he circles back to Ravens.
Well, the only thing is, I'm not as excited. So when we talk through the show, I like that. But what I was going to say is, the one thing I've been coming down on a little bit after talking through the whole show is this Mark Andrews play. I know how good he is. I know he's turned it on since the beginning of the season and all that stuff. I'm a major Ravens fan. I'm saying I do worry. I know that automatically we do this all the time. Likely's out, big game for this guy. Well, what ends up happening is now it's like we don't got our set like that. We need Andrews to block a little bit more. Let's do this. And it's Henry and Deontay Johnson and Zay Flowers and Bateman that are doing all the work. It's not Andrews. And guess who is 6,300 at captain versus 6,600 at captain for the D. So I'm just saying, I'm thinking about it now, a little less Andrews, even though he's got the good injury spot. I'm thinking a little more about this Bateman and Deontay stuff, and I'm thinking a little bit about this Raven stuff. Even in flex, though, it's the same in flex. You don't have to give me the shit about captain. He's $200 more. It's $200 more to play the Ravens D versus Mark Andrews. There's definitely a possibility. He starts with 10 more points than Andrews starts with too. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh gosh, man. So much great momentum on the show. Nothing worse than like just a complete buzzkill as we're like finishing things off here.
There's been so many quarterbacks shit on this season that I've pumped you with. Aaron Rodgers, horrible play, goes on and has a great game.
Bro,
this is what it's all about.
I don't even know what you said. I blocked it out after, but like I just
Ooh. Well, it hasn't happened yet, so it's going to happen soon. That's the thing. Don't be mad about it. And I'm going to put Ravens up top, Henry in the flex, and then Burrow in the flex. There's the other core for you. Let's do it that.
Everyone 150 and max that core. Just tell me what tournaments you're playing.
Yeah, there you go. You can flip it around.
Use it for marketing. Just make sure when you the slate locks, make sure you screenshot your winnings.
What you do know, Poop, if it works, this will all be marketing, and you and I are going to be
we're done.
absolutely
Yeah, I'll be on vacation for the next few showdown slates. It's gonna be like, where did Hoop go? He's out of town for a week.
On the clip, we play it back. Hoop says, "I closed my ears. I didn't even hear what you said." Yeah, that's the one. But this is the other thing. Like, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, Andrews, we already know. Everybody knows what you just said here. Like, that's the facts. Everybody expects that. It's what aren't they thinking about? And those two dudes are literally, even if you take the captain one because you're angry about it and throw it out the window, it's $200 more to get the Ravens D and flex. There is lineups that could have Henry at captain, Ravens D in the flex, and they just crush. They go up, and they don't need Andrews. Andrews just stays in and blocks. They have all these other dudes to get into the mix. There's Bengals that beat him and smash him on the other side. Like, that part is not crazy. Hoop just doesn't like captain up top. You can definitely play the Ravens D and flex. Title was just on him too. So sure. I just bring up the points. You guys build your own lineups. It's my money versus your money, and I'm okay with it.
The best way to deploy the Ravens defense tonight for sure, is Derrick Henry captain teams and hope that you get that sort of game where the tight ends are blocking, they get up 14-0, and it's Derrick Henry just pounding it down their throat for, the second half of the game. So that's, to me, the best way. If you're hand building, again, it's somewhat challenging if you're, doing 150 with the optimizer to get a bunch of teams like that. But if you're hand building, I think that's definitely the best way to play Ravens defense.
Yeah, and you can still get away with some other stuff. Like if you go Henry up top, Ravens D in the flex, and pick a pass catcher for the Ravens, maybe it's Andrews still. Maybe you play Andrews, but then you've got the Bengals are down in that scenario, and you just jam the Bengals coming back. So again, not what everybody's going to like, but certainly one thing. TCB went and figured it out. Little too far. 3,000 miles away. I don't know if nobody's going 3,000 miles to check this guy
I think
out.
it was the state of Washington, not Washington, D.C.
Okay, that's what it is. Good to know. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, Hoop got his Miller time at the end. That's certainly true. It worked until it didn't. I had him in a really nice lineup, and then they decided not to go for two, which I'm still pissed off about, as I know.
That was so stupid, man. That's just incredibly dumb, especially knowing, that's a whole different conversation, but knowing you're going to overtime on the road with Patrick Mahomes, just baffling to me. These coaches are so stupid. It's wild.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the worst I've ever seen. Not anything to do with money on the line, just literally from a
I actually made good money by it going to overtime. Like, I actually profited on the slate because it went to overtime, but that is just an incredibly dumb decision.
Nothing worse than your coach, though, who last year, Dallas, I love Dan Campbell, but last year, Dallas, I don't know what's going to beat that. When they move it back 10 yards and he still goes for it.
Yeah. Dude's got to be, he's got to be like Burton-esque, where it's like he's burning money on like slot machines and shit on his off days. Like he has to love to gamble. Like he has to.
And I love him as a coach. I would love him to be mine, but that decision, that will always reign in my head. Big Mike somehow coached him.
Oh, wait, we got conflicting reports. Caddy, who's a Maryland resident, says, for those researching, as the MD living and Ravens fan, Bellevue is a neighborhood in D.C., not far from National Harbor.
Yeah, so the last part of that comment's crazy, though. Come on, guys, easy. Like, how's that easy?
Google it. That's what he said.
Yeah, well, I didn't Google it.
I just didn't have enough time to do it all. I'd have to get back to posting, but that's why we got a good chat in here. We always got the people looking out for us. Hoopster, do you got any FanDuel talk tonight with the pricing that's up there? You see anything?
It's soft pricing, unfortunately, like very soft. Like this is a slate where we could, see guys 17.5 or 18K. Lamar Jackson at 15.5, way too cheap. Burrow 14K. Jamar Chase 13K. Henry 14.5. Flowers 12. Chase Brown 12.5. So all those top end guys between 15.5 and 12.5, just too cheap. The one guy, ironically, that's not too cheap is Deontay Johnson, who I think the FanDuel thought that he was still playing for the Panthers. 11K for Deontay Johnson. That's a tough price tag, a very, very tough click. Andrews at 10K, Gesicki at 9.5. I think both viable options. Bateman stands out at 8K flat. Justice Hill 75. Yoshi at 75. Our Burton guy 65. You're gonna be able to get whatever you want over there. The pricing's super cheap. Lamar Jackson will be even higher owned in the MVP spot. So I think anything outside of him, you can probably get some decent leverage. Maybe Derrick Henry up there. Derrick Henry's the second highest price guy on the slate. So maybe it keeps his ownership in check up top a little bit, but soft overall, I'd say, for FanDuel.
My favorite saying of the year. This is the best one. Sucks, but Hoop crushes over there. That's why we let him talk about it. Once we hit about an hour, I'm obviously on to stuff that's not related to anything you guys want to talk about. But Hoop, I mean, Title, do you even remember this?
No,
he doesn't even know what it is. Hoop, you got to remember.
I don't either. No.
Man, yeah, knows about it. I'm the same age as Hoop. This is I don't know if it was a competitor or even maybe it was even before Google. Either way, it was all around that same time.
Yeah.
And now someone's $1 million idea right now. You could start up AI Jeeves and basically just use AI to ask whatever. They already have it and exists. But Ask Jeeves was just a search engine where instead of typing in the topic and it just pops up, you could type like a question. What about where is this place located? And you do it. So Ask Jeeves, baby, your lesson of the day. I got nothing else to add. Title, you got any final thoughts for this slate?
No, you just Ask Jeeves and made Siri took all their business. Hey, instead of typing, just go, hey Siri, what is?
Yeah.
Siri took out Jeeves. Think about the game of Clue. Who done it? Who did it? Like Siri took out Jeeves in the kitchen or wherever. You got to figure out the rules. That's what happened.
I did not have a Clue mention on my bingo card, but hey, I love it. Never know what you're going to get on this show. But no, Hoop covered FanDuel well. I think we walked through it very clearly. I know someone asked above, like, you can't play everyone above 7K. Who's your least favorite? I think I made it clear. I'm going to be most underweight on Henry, but I play a lot more lineups, so I can play all of them, and I will. Again, I try and build my individual lineups to make sense. I think we talk good game theory, game scripts about certain guys, the Hills, the Henrys of the world, defense, etc. So good slate. I agree, and let's make some cheese.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Lots to do. Best play on the slate, but Derrick Henry, you just said you're going light on him. That's going to be the massive leverage spot on Lamar tonight. It's going to be incredible stuff. And then we'll see how it goes. I tried that yesterday. It didn't quite work out in the NBA series. But Curry, shout out to my guy Sean Sullivan. He's in there somewhere. I got the Curry side right, not the Tambo. Or not the Tatum side right. But Hoop, any final thoughts on this slate for you?
No, man. Let's start week 10 off on a high note and carry the momentum into the weekend.
I wasn't listening, but all I heard was play Ravens D and the captain. So, hey, that's Hoop's take for tonight. If that's what he likes, got to listen to Hoops.
Do it, everybody. Play them all. Jam it.
All right. Appreciate you guys. This was amazing. Love this chat. Love you guys. Just put the like button up. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be back on Sunday on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station for the main show, 9:45 a.m. Eastern. Same trio that we got here for Hoop, for Title, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.